الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. As we continue in this tremendous treatise about the great Imam, I keep forgetting about the day all the time. I forget. Today is April the 8th. April the 8th. No. Today is April the 8th, which is Sunday night. April the 8th, which corresponds to the Gregorian calendar. Which year is this? 2018. Look at the year of the Gregorian calendar. 2018. April the 8th of 2018 on Sunday night, of which corresponds on the day of Rajab, whereas we are now in the month of Rajab. Well, subhanAllah. You hear the month of Rajab, as soon as you hear that, Ramadan is coming. So the month of Rajab, we're now around, right now we're in the 21st, I think it's the 22nd now. It's the 22nd now, 22nd night of Monday. So now, in regards to the Islamic calendar, this is considered Monday night, Islamically. In accordance to what's the 22nd of Rajab, which is 1439 of the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. So everybody keep in mind always on the date of, in accordance to the date and the time, and also try to keep up with that as much as one can possibly. As we continue in this tremendous treatise, we arrive to the last part till we can close out this chapter finally and move on to the next one. As we talked about, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, the chapter which we're about to conclude, inshaAllah, bi'idhnillah, it says, بَابْ مَنْ تَبَرَّكَ بِشَجَرٍ أَوْ حَجَرٍ وَنَحْوِهِمَا. The chapter as we concluded, or we're going to finalize today, the chapter of seeking blessing by a tree or rock or anything similar to it. We was discussing the Al-Hadi Ashara, the 11th matter, that the great Imam that he ended and concluded this chapter with, the 11th matter. And we're discussing what is the definition of Shirk al-Akbar wal-Asghar. We was discussing what the meaning of minor polytheism and major polytheism and the differences between them. We discussed and said that polytheism, of course, breaks down to how many categories, everyone? It breaks down to two. You have major and minor polytheism. We said that Ahl Ilm, in regards to Shirk al-Asghar, minor polytheism, you'll find that they give two definitions of minor polytheism. Those definitions, in light of what we mentioned last lesson, we said, what is the first one? What did we say? Jamal? He wasn't here, was he? I don't think he was listening to him. You told me that the other day. Just hurry up. Like, the first statement we said that the meaning of minor polytheism. What is it? Jay, that's close. What we said was everything that you'll find that the shadi'u does not mean street here, okay? Everyone, linguistically, shadi' in the Arabic language means street. But however, as far as istilah and kitab-and-sunnah, when you say here the word shadi', meaning the one who legislates, who is Allah. So it doesn't mean shadi', it means street. Linguistically, we're talking about the shadi', who is the one who legislates, who is Allah. But anyway, everything that the shadi' that he uses for polytheism, which the text indicate, where it says in the text that it is what? Shirk. As far as minor polytheism. For example, hand me your book. Hand me your book. Number 11. No, we're not there. Oh, I'm reading this backwards. think it's an Arabic book, right? Hadi Ashara, right here. What is it? Oh, they don't have it translated? Oh, here it is. 11. Number 11. No problem. طيب. So minor polytheism is everything that the shari', what do we say shari' means here in this context? It's a law, or what was legislated in kitab-Sunnah. Everything that the shari' mentions, or indicates in the text. What text are we talking about? In kitab and sunnah. As far as in the ayah to the book of Allah, or upon the authentic sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, where it says that it is what? Shirk. But in its origin, it is what? Minor. It's the first definition of minor polytheism. For example, we gave example of this. Where the Prophet ﷺ, "Man halafa bi ghayri Allah faqad ashrak." Whoever swears by other than Allah, then he has what? He's committed polytheism. Whoever swears by other than Allah, he has committed what, everyone? Minor polytheism. But here, is it major shirk or is it minor polytheism? What is it? We said in its origin, it's minor polytheism. In its origin. But it could switch to major. Right, everyone? It could switch to major. But in the origin, when this type of polytheism is committed, and we said it in its origin, it's minor. The example of that is the one who swears by other than Allah. Is minor polytheism in its origin. Right, everyone? Jayid? Or, for example, what's another example of minor polytheism? Which the Prophet ﷺ said it was. I said, the message of Allah ﷺ also said in authentic text, where also, likewise, a hadith al-Qudsi and other than that. The Prophet ﷺ also mentioned authentic hadith, what he say, everyone? أَنَا أَغْنَى الشُّرَكَاءِ عِنِ الشِّرْكِ. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, an authentic hadith and a message of Allah, which is hadith al-Qudsi, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أنا أغنى الشركاء عن الشرك فمن أشرك معي فيه غيري تركته شركا وفي رواية وأنا بريء منه. When the message of Allah ﷺ mentions, said, what everyone? They said that Allah said, I am the one who is most self-sufficient of polytheism. So whoever does an action and he shares in it, with it, in it, other than me, then I have left him and left his shirk, or I left him and I left who he associated with, as far as that particular action in which he did it for. What do we mean by that? The Prophet ﷺ was talking about showing off. Where a person does an action of something that's righteous outwardly, but his intention is to win some type of praise of someone who's looking at him. That in its origin is what? Notice the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah said it is what, everyone? It's shirk, it's polytheism, it's a type of polytheism. It is. You understand, everyone? But it is, in its origin is what? It's minor. It's minor polytheism. Is it clear? Just stick to the topic ahead. We said that polytheism breaks into two types. You have major, you have minor. The major removes you from the fold of Islam. Right, everyone? Nullifies your Islam. Right now we're speaking about minor, right, everyone? Like we said, minor breaks down into, minor of what Ahl Ilm say. They give two definitions of minor polytheism. That's what we're discussing right now. So, these type of affairs, like we said, what do we say? In its origin is what? Minor. Such as, for example, swearing by other than Allah, or, for example, showing off. A person does an outward righteous action, but in actuality, he's doing it for some type of win or praise of the people due to the fact of who's looking at him, to the end of it. طيب. Or, please suffice with these two examples because we got to move on. طيب. So this in which you'll find Ahl Ilm, you'll find that they say that this is what they call minor polytheism, because the text indicated. The text indicated. But however we know in its origin, one that swears by Allah doesn't remove him from the fold of Islam. It does not in its origin. In its origin. طيب. So that's the first definition of what, everyone? Minor polytheism. Right, Abdurrahim? So that's the first definition of what Ahl Ilm mentioned in regards to what is minor polytheism. You with me, Ibi? Ibrahim? Ibrahim? You with me? So what's one example of minor polytheism? One example. Give me one example of minor polytheism. Minor. Say it again. Smart. I told you. He's a smart little boy. طيب. So you understand, everyone? Jayyid? طيب. So, in this regard, we said that this is the meaning of minor polytheism. Who's that sleeping? Oh, طيب. Minor polytheism. طيب. The second definition of minor polytheism. Second definition of shirk al-asghar. What is considered, just to make this clear before we go on to the second one. طيب, so this is everything that you'll find that Allah and His Messenger have clarified it is shirk. Of course, you'll find that it's considered minor polytheism, depending on, like we said, what type of action it is. Right, everyone? But all the ayats in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the ayats where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls shirk, you'll find that the Sahaba will use those ayats that were revealed in major polytheism. They also use it as a dalil for what? Minor also. لِجَامِعِ الْإِشْرَاقِ. Due to the fact that they could be used for either which one. So all the ayats that come and was revealed for major polytheism can be used for minor. It can be used for minor. You'll find that the Sahaba used to use ayats that were revealed about major polytheism can be used for what? Minor polytheism. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear so far? طيب. So what we're talking about right now is evidence and proof of what comes in either the book of Allah or the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where the Messenger of Allah, you'll find in the authentic sunnah, he called it polytheism, but in its origin it's minor. But it's not major. But it can be what? It can switch into major polytheism if one is not careful. Jayyid, is it clear? Musa, you with me? Or you just switching the book? Is it clear so far? Abdullah? Jayyid. طيب, so now the second category. You'll find that shirk al-asghar is anything that is a wasila ila al-akbar. You'll find that the second definition which Ahl-Ilm use for minor polytheism, anything that is a means or methods that will allow or make one fall into major. Even though you'll find that the shari', notice I use the word shari' again, the shari' or the shara', the Islamic legislation, did not call it shirk. He didn't call it shirk per name or per se. For example, what's the example? We gave examples of this. I said this in last class. For example, even Ibn Uthaymeen mentions a good example here. Listen to this. لا يعتمد الإنسان على شيء كاعتماده على الله كأنه لم يتخذه إلها لكنه لم يتخذه إلها فهذا شرك أصغر لأن هذا الاعتماد الذي يكون كاعتماده على الله يؤدي به في النهاية إلى الشرك الأكبر. He gives it a good example. He says, for example, a man relies on something just as he relies upon Allah. Or he depends on something just as he depends on Allah. He did not take it as a deity, though. This is minor polytheism. How? Because this type of reliance, or this type of reliance in which a person is done just as his reliance upon Allah, it will take him in the end of falling into major if he's not careful. What are we speaking about? We gave examples of this. For example, we said this last lesson. For example, we talked about our jobs, and how we get paid, and how we attain our sustenance to feed our families, to feed our children. طيب, we said when we work, we look at our jobs and our boss, or the one who's in charge of the job, is just a mere what? Sabab. He's a reason for attaining your sustenance, right, everyone? But your heart is connected with Allah, not connected with your boss, of saying that my sustenance relies on him, and through him is the only way I'm going to attain my sustenance. We said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he will, he can switch his heart or do something that will allow him not to give you your sustenance and hold it back. Because ultimately the affair is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But however, you'll find that people's hearts are connected with the reason, the sabab. This is what we're speaking about. Your heart is connected with the reason of how you attain your benefit. It's connected to it. Whereas his heart is supposed to be connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that he merely looks at these affairs as mere as what? Asbab. Look at them just mere what, everyone? Mere what? Reasons. That's it. But your heart is not connected to the sabab. We talked about this a little, we touched on this a little bit a couple of months ago, approximately maybe a month and a half or 2 months ago. We touched on this a little bit. There's a whole chapter that's going to come on it, so don't worry, we don't have to get too deep in this. But just to reiterate what we mentioned, we said that the mu'min, he does the reasons of what will benefit him in his dunya, in this world. He goes out and sets out what will benefit him, no matter what it is, of something beneficial. If he sets out, he's ambitious and he wants to actualize some goals of his, whether it's in business or whether it's in education or what have you, that one sets out to put forth his utmost or his best effort, no doubt. For example, you want to get a certain degree in a certain job field, you do your best. The asbab, the reasons for that is, for example, to attain those high grades. The reasons of attaining high grades is what? It's through studying and being diligent and hardworking. That's the sabab, that's the reason. You go out every day, you go out, you put forth the effort, you read, you study. Those are the asbab in order for you to finally reach your achievement or attain your goal. That's the asbab. Those are the reasons. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded this, that one sets out. He just doesn't rely on Allah and thinks something is going to happen by him sitting and just having what they call hope that one day I will attain it, and he didn't do anything. That's absolute nonsense. But your heart is not connected with the what? With the reasons of how you attain some benefit. Also likewise, for example, a person that wants to have a family and children. We're commanded to go out and look for a spouse. We talked about this. So one, he goes out. As the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he also mentioned and said, what everyone we know the hadith, احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز. What the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he mentioned and said, he says, have the strong desire to go out and attain what will benefit you. Meaning, work hard towards it. Because the Messenger of Allah in this particular narration is saying, do the asbab. But notice in the second hadith part, he connects the heart of the mu'min with Allah. He says, Ista'in billah wa la ta'jaz. Notice that he said, do the reasons, but don't forget, seek help with Allah and do not give up. So notice in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ combined between what? Combined what we're commanded to do as far as attaining and putting forth our effort, and at the same time, he's still commanded with Tawheed, where one's heart is tied in with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is it clear, everyone? In order to say that what? You'll find that Ahl Ilm, that they say, that so they bring forth, as we talked about this before, they say, we've been commanded with the asbab, and we've been commanded with Tawheed. So now we have both affairs in our hands. Doing the reasons of what will attain benefit by having our hearts tied in with Allah, and one without the other is something that's infringement upon either upon it being polytheism or something that ridicules the wisdom of Allah Ta'ala. For example, a person saying that he wants a certain affair and he doesn't do the reasons, as we know, is qadh, is ridiculing the infinite wisdom of Allah, of how things come about. So you'll find that the person is dispraised of those who want certain things of benefit that is legislated and is correct, but he does not put forth the effort. And he leaves it off and he just says, I'm going to put my trust in Allah, that one day it will happen. So you'll find that Ahl Ilm says about this person that this is mockery and ridiculing the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the wisdom of Allah. So how he has Tawheed, but he also fell into something else that is incorrect, which is ridiculing the wisdom of Allah. Because Allah ta'ala, as we know, كما شرع الأسباب وخلق الأسباب والمسببات. Allah ta'ala created the reasons and what comes about as a result of it. For example, what's the reason for kids is what? Marriage and looking for a wife. What comes as a result of marriage and that wife is what? It's those children that you want. So now a person says, I'm going to sit in that house, I'm never going to get married, but I want a bunch of children. Doesn't make absolutely any sense. Right, everyone? So that's the reason why it ridicules the wisdom of Allah. Because Allah created the asbab and He created the what? The musabbabat. He created the reasons and He created what will come as a result of the reasons if Allah wants it. If Allah inevitably wants you to have it. You understand, everyone? Now the opposite. If you drop, like we said, now this is what we're talking about now, here, this example, the second definition. Now I'm bringing it back to the class. Now this is the opposite, switch it. Now put your reliance in the asbab, but you don't put your trust in Allah. What do Ahl Ilm consider that? Polytheism. Is it major? Or is it minor? Minor. Minor polytheism in its origin. Minor polytheism in its origin. So now I switched it. Drop the asbab and just say, excuse me. Forget about the reliance in Allah here in this example, and he's putting his reliance in the asbab. What is that now? Polytheism. Jayyid? Is it clear now? As we know, this is a so now you'll find, like we said, and this is the example we're speaking about here in the second example, minor polytheism, that a person relies upon the asbab just as he relies upon Allah. Jayyid? So now your person looks at the creation of what he attains a benefit is just the mere reasons. But his heart is not connected with it to the point where you'll fall into this type of polytheism. Is it clear? So his heart is tied in with the Creator. That's it. Not the creation. That's the whole reason of why we've been created. For our hearts to be tied in with one deity. Who's Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, which He dominates and He's control over everything inevitably. And then in the end. Not for us to be tied in with the creation. But the creation is just the means of how you attain your benefit. Doesn't matter what it is in your life. Whether it's your sustenance, whether it's your children, or whether it's anything of a specific goal that you want to attain or achieve. So your heart is tied in with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the type of example of what applies to the second example we just mentioned here. You understand, Abdullah? You with me? Jayyid? Is it clear what I'm saying? That Abdullah too. Is it clear what I'm saying? So that's what we're talking about. So now you'll find, based upon this definition, the second one, you will not find in the kitaab-attawheed where this affair is called or has the name shirk for it, in which you'll find. But it is a wasila, it is a means for one to fall into polytheism if he's not careful, even though it was not called this in this particular instance. Based upon the first example we just gave, we gave the first definition. That's basically to make a difference between the first and the second. The first one is talking about there is a text, basically. And the second one is basically saying that everything that is a means for you to fall to major, then it's called shirk. Right, everyone? So based upon the second definition, what did we say? Last class, we said based upon the second definition, then we said that some of the Salaf used to call sins. Likewise, sins was called, some of the Salaf used to call sins minor polytheism. Why? تفضل Jamal. Jay, based upon the second definition, you'll find that the Salaf used to call committing sin minor polytheism. Why? Because you're giving precedence to your desires over what Allah commanded you to do in His messenger. So you'll find that some of the Salaf, you will find that they did call sins minor polytheism, because you're giving precedence to your hawa over what Allah commanded in His messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. So that's the reason why you'll find, based upon this definition here, that they used to say that about sins. But it does not remove you from the fold of Islam. It does not remove, but however, it weakens your faith, and it also infringes upon you purifying your shahada. Purifying your shahada. Purifying your testimony or your covenant that you made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If one doesn't make tawbah, of course. But we know that the bab, or the door of repentance, is open. But, like we said, one wants to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his testimony is cleansed from anything that will infringe upon its validity. He wants it to stay intact and pure. Where we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly to give us tawfiq to make tawbah from anything that will not only render it incomplete or nullify it in totality, from both affairs. For those matters, like we said, sins in itself will render it incomplete, and it will render it extremely weak. But it's still intact and it's still valid. And sins, we know, do not remove you from the fold of Islam. So we said, to conclude everything in this particular matter here, Al-Hadi Ashra, the 11th, that the author, he said, in the shirk fihi akbar wa asgharu. So you notice that the great Imam, Shaykh Muhammad AbdurRazzaaq, what does it say in your books, everyone? He said, in it is major polytheism and minor and major. Right, everyone? Then you have minor polytheism, which is, you'll find that Ahl Ilm call minor polytheism. This is another category, write a line. Write this in your book. Another line. You'll find that Ahl Ilm call minor polytheism. Also, I'm sorry, everyone. Shirk. Just not minor polytheism. We finished with that. From polytheism is what is called jali and khafi. What is open and what is what? Secret or inconspicuous or hidden. Not for minor. Khalas, we're done with minor. We're talking about polytheism again. Just write another line and write, from polytheism is what is open and what is what? Hidden. What they call jali or khafi. Jali means it's clear, it's open. Khafi means that is what? It's hidden, it's inconspicuous. Then he mentioned and said that they did not apostate because of this. You notice it says it in it. It says that in your book, right? طيب. Some of Ahl Ilm does say that Jali and Khafi, some of them say that it's what? The meaning of Jali and Khafi, I think it's self-explanatory, right? Some of them say that it's what? What is apparent and open for people to see. Of major and minor. Of major and minor. What is open for the people to see of major and minor. For example, someone prostrating to a rock, or someone prostrating to a tree, or prostrating to a cross, or prostrating to something, or worshiping something Allah created openly. And khafi is, for example, what is hidden, such as what, everyone? That's easy. Such as showing off, or such as showing off, or having an i'tiqad, or having a belief that there's another deity with Allah. All that's from khafi, was connected with the heart, basically. That's what some of the people say that, which is the meaning of jali and khafi. What is done openly and what is what? Hidden and inconspicuous. طيب. We also mentioned the benefit last lesson. This is what I wanted to talk about. Notice that the Imam has said in this book, if you look in it, what does it say, everyone? It says, because they did not apostate because of this. We have mentioned and said in this statement that you'll find that Ahl Ilm came and gave a little bit of clarification in this regard. Even though at the same time they still respected the Imam, the Sheikh Muhammad Abdul-Wahhab in this regard. But what is correct to say about this statement here? Now, if you go back to the text, the Sahaba, on the hadith, what happened with the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they asked to seek what? To hang their weapons on that tree. That's what they asked. That's what they merely asked. That was it. Was it what they asked? Was it from major polytheism or minor polytheism? What did we say? We said, what did we say? It was two statements. But what we lean towards is what? The great Imam, even Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami mentioned this. He said, this is what is correct. He says, the great Imam, Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, mentioned and said that is what? He said this regard, he considered it minor. Why does he say that? What's his delil? Because he said, because shirk in it is from it is what? Major and minor. And this is the reason why they didn't apostate. So based upon the statement, what is he saying? That which they asked in the hadith, it was what? What was it? It was minor. So Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab in the hadith said it was minor. However, even from Ahl Ilm, from them was Sheikh Muhammad Hamid Faqih, rahimahullah, and Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami. This was Sheikh Muhammad Aman, he even gave a little ta'liq, a commentary on this statement. He said, this is, because of this, they did not apostate. طيب, listen to what he says. He says, rather, what they asked for is not from minor polytheism. He says, ليس ما طلبوه من الشرك الأصغر لو كان منه ولو كان منه لما جعله النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نظير قول بني إسرائيل اجعل لنا إلها وأقسم على ذلك بل هو من الشرك الأكبر كما أن ما طلبه بنو إسرائيل من الأكبر وإن لم يكن يكفروا بطلبهم لأنهم حدثاء عهد بالإسلام ولأنهم لم يفعلوا ما طلبوه ولم يقدموا عليه بل سألوا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فتأمل. That's what he said. He said it's not from minor polytheism. And he says ولو كان منه, and if it was from minor polytheism, then the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not have made it similar to what Bani Israel said, which is everyone, what is the statement of Bani Israel? What happened with Musa? Make for us a deity just as they have a deity. So the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made that statement of hanging their weapons on the tree. He made it from what, everyone? Similar to the statement of Bani Israel. Bani Israel also what? Asked for was what? Was major polytheism. It was major polytheism. Is it clear what I'm saying, Ibrahim? Is it clear what I'm saying, Abdullah? So, this statement here of them, what they asked for by hanging those weapons on the tree, trying to seek some type of blessing, by hanging and clinging their weapons on the tree, is the same statement of what the Prophet ﷺ made similar to what, everyone? Bani Israel. So this is Sheikh Hamid Faqih that he mentioned goes on his head. He says, and the message of Allah ﷺ not only made it similar to the statement of Bani Israel, he also likewise swore upon that. وَالَّذِي نَفْسِ بِيَدِهِ. He swore by Allah. He says, so rather it is from major polytheism. He says, just as what Banu Israel asked was from major polytheism. He says, however, they did not disbelieve due to their what? Due to them asking, because number one, of course, they were new to Islam. And secondly, they didn't even do it. They didn't do what they asked or requested. nor did they approach it. Rather, they just asked the Messenger of Allah, and that was it. So isn't the statement of Sheikh Hamad Fiqhi was good? It was excellent, as Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad Jabi said. In his explanation, he said this statement was excellent. So he said this is exactly in agreement with what the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned. But the Sahaba, he says the last statement with the great, with Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad, Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab in your books, he said they did not apostate because of this. What does it say in your books, by out of curiosity? What does it say in the 11th statement? He wasn't apostates because of it. But like we said, we can't say whether they wasn't apostates or not apostates. You can't say that. Due to the fact that they didn't what? They didn't do it. They were just asked, that's it. So they came and clarified the statement the great Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab said in the statement that statement has in it فيه يعني نوع من النظر وفيه نظر. That it just needs to be clarified, that it has a statement in which clarified that said that this statement here is no reason to say it due to the fact that we don't know whether or not they could apostate or not apostate due to the fact that they didn't even do it. They just asked. So they didn't do it. Now, if they would have done it, now that would have been another case. That would have been something else. Then another type of research that would have been done. What is the other research? The other research, or another matter now kicks in, what we have to study. Did they disbelieve? Is the fact that they didn't disbelieve because they did not know that they were new to Islam? They did not know whatever. That's something else. But we can't even look into that. We didn't even reach that point. Why did we reach that point? Because they didn't do it. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear or is it not clear? Some people are saying, it's like, just give me this one. Is it clear or is it not clear? Musa, tell me what you understood. What did you understand from what I just said? Just sum it up in a couple of words. You have to give me the details that I just said. What did you understand from this statement? First of all, the focus is on what? This last statement in your book. They did not apostate because of this. No, not major sins, major. That's. Hey, I'm sorry. Hold on. Jay, we said that Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab said it here. It is what he said it's minor. But however, you'll find that Ahl Ilm came behind it, just clarified that one statement has a little bit of something in it. That statement. Nobody's free from mistakes. Alhamdulillah, even though the book is one of the greatest books and what we rely on, At-Tawheed. But at the end of the day, you'll find that Ahl Ilm clarified that statement needs a little bit more detail and explanation. First of all, like we said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that their statement was considered what? Major polytheism. Why? Because it's similar to what Bani Israel said, what Musa said to Bani Israel. Right or wrong? Is it clear? But there's no need to say at the end of the statement, they did not apostate because of this. Why? Because we don't know. We didn't even get into that affair due to the fact that they didn't do it. So there's no reason to mention the statement that they did not apostate because of this. Because it didn't reach that level yet. Is it clear what I'm saying, brothers? They didn't even reach that level because they didn't do it. Right or wrong? So due to the fact that they didn't do it, there's no reason to even look inside of whether or not they apostated or not. Because it never reached that level. Brothers, is it clear what I'm saying or not clear? Because I don't want everyone to know that this particular, just the word in here, you'll find that Al-Ilm just clarified and said that this statement, that one small statement of the great Imam, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him for his ijtihad, that there's no reason to say that, due to the fact they never reached that level. محمد السيد الفضيل وبعث من قال محمود وعده. طيب. So what we're mentioning here is what, everyone? Just to sum up everything, because I want to move on to the next thing. We've been talking about this a couple of lessons. We keep sticking on it. We keep staying on it. But I want everyone to make sure that we were clear before we moved on to the next point. So this particular statement, like we said, we do not know whether or not to say whether or not they prostated or they did not apostate or they did apostate, because it never reached that level. It never even reached that level. Due to the fact that Sahaba just merely acts. A person acts, there's a difference between doing something and asking. Then a person gets corrected by asking a statement. Then they get, as we know, corrected or admonished due to something they might have asked. If they, like we said, depending on the person, he's advised or he's redirected. That's what the Messenger of Allah ﷺ did. But now, the question is, what they asked, was it from major or minor polytheism? What they requested, was it from major or minor? Major. It's major. So that's to show clearly that what? Seeking blessing by something, by hanging it or clinging it or rubbing it or touching it or feeling it or rubbing your body against it or whatever. Well, you'll find that a lot of the Muslims do in certain Muslim countries, even when you go to Mecca and Medina. You'll find that the common folk who are ignorant indulge in these matters due to the fact of, or due to lack of knowledge. Seeking blessing by what? Not only by just hanging something on something, in which was mentioned here, but we talked about and covered all the different aspects of tabarruk, of seeking blessing, whether it be from touching it, feeling it, kissing it, or rubbing your body on it, or rubbing all your body on it, or what have you. All those things are prohibited, except by, like we said, a text, strictly specifying what one can utilize that thing in order to attain barakah, in order to attain blessing by it. And we said barakah is of different types. We know there's barakah of knowledge. Like in this knowledge that we're learning, and it is blessing, where one attains reward by enlightening him and augmenting himself in knowledge. And at the same time, the ulama who we take their benefit from receive this blessing and this reward. But all the different types of what we're talking about as far as touching certain things of worship of what we're discussing now, then that's only for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His message has specified and said exclusively that thing can be used as a way of barakah. That's it, no more, no less. And that you come to a graveyard, in which a lot of the Muslims indulge in certain Muslim countries, they go to the grave of a dead person who some of them think they are righteous, and they'll even rub their bodies, and you'll see them they'll see them kissing it and rubbing their faces on it. And all these things are prohibited. Due to the fact, like we talked about before, and this goes back to the qa'idah, and I want everybody to write this down. The principle is that the origin in worship, everything is haram. Everything is unlawful until there's a text telling you can do it. Unless there's a text from kitab and sunnah. Everything is unlawful. In the affair of worship, everything is unlawful until there's a text, either in the book of Allah that Allah commanded, or upon the tongue of His Messenger ﷺ, saying that you can do it in the aspect of ibadah. The al-asl fil ibadat al-mana'. You'll find that Ahl al-Ilm say that the origin in ibadat is al-mana', is that everything is prohibited. Everything is prohibited until you have a text saying you could do it. Why? Because the affairs of worship are the most what? They are the most what, everyone? They are most important matters. Because that's what we created for. They are most important of matters. So the most important of matters, we need to know what is the evidence and proof for it. Like he said, our religion is based upon evidences and proof, not upon what we feel. How we feel, that's the ways of those who Allah led astray. From the Jews and the Christians and other than them. Everything is based upon how I feel. I feel that I worship this way. I feel like I worship Allah this way. I feel I can do it this way. That's the reason why they were led astray. But however, walillahi alhamd, everything we do is based upon concrete, authentic evidence from the kitab and sunnah. So the origin in worship is what, everyone? Everything's prohibited. Until there's a text saying you can what? You can do it. As far as the mu'amalat as we know, as far as in the aspect of what they call mu'amalat, transactions and general dealings amongst the creation, as far as in business and trade or what have you, or any general dealings, that everything is the opposite. Everything is halal until there's a text saying that you cannot do it. Everything, kullu shay' al-hil. Everything is halal unless what? Unless there's a text saying that you cannot do it. You understand, everyone? If there's a text saying you cannot do it, then you cannot do it. So we notice in the aspect of the ibadah, there's some shiddah, there's some sternness in it. Why? To show that it is the most what? Most vital, and it's the most detrimental, and it's the most important. As far as in the aspect of mu'amalat, general dealings, business transactions, so on and so forth, then as you'll find, like we said, it's the opposite, that everything is halal unless there's a text saying that you cannot indulge in it or conduct in it. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. So now, we move on to the next one. I only got a couple more minutes. So now let's move on to the 12th masala. Oh, did everyone get that down? So now we move on to the 12th. What's the 12th? Somebody read it for me. Let's see. Ibrahim, read it for me. Jade. It says that they just left off disbelief. What does that mean here, everyone? That they were new to Islam. That's the reason why they asked this request. Because they didn't know. They just recently embraced Islam. So they asked this statement, which was a statement which the Messenger of Allah had called it polytheism. Where they asked to hang their weapons on that tree, seeking blessing by it. So the Messenger of Allah had admonished them. But however, we know from the kibar al-sahaba, from the major companions who were with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ from the time the revelation was revealed would have known, because the affairs of Aqidah, of it being strong and it being also likewise correct and upright, was something that was deep rooted in them, to the point, like for example, Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali and other than them would not have asked this question, due to the fact that they was with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ from the beginning, and the Aqidah and the belief system of what was correct was deep rooted in themselves and in their hearts. But to show you that those who asked this question, or that asked this request, were who, everyone? They were new. They were new to Islam. They just left off this belief. However, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ did not what? Excuse them. He admonished them, because of the validity of the statement was tremendous, because it was something pertaining to what? To polytheism. So this is what Ibn Uthaymeen even mentions in this regard. He says this. He says أنه يعتذر عما طلبوا حيث طلبوا ويجعل لهم ذات أنواط فهم يعتذرون لجهلهم بكونهم حدثاء عهد بكفر, to the end of it. He says that they apologize due to their lack of knowledge, because they just left off disbelief. He says, as for other than them, of those who preceded, the Islam preceded in the first, they were not ignorant to this. So he's talking about here, who, everyone? The major Sahaba. From who? Who's the major Sahaba? Such as Abu Bakr, such as Umar, such as Uthman, wal-Ashra al-Mubashara, al-Mashhud lahum bil-Jannah, or the 10 of those who, and other than them. And the 10 who Allah, the Prophet ﷺ talked about, they will be guaranteed paradise, and other than them, from the great Sahaba, from the Kibar al-Sahaba. They had knowledge of this, and they would not have access. But, however, it's to let one know that due to the fact that even though these were companions, that was the warning, these were the companions, even though they were the companions of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, this knowledge was hidden from them. Even though they were companions. To let us know that there should be an encouragement for us to what? To hasten and learn. Because if this knowledge could be hidden from who considered the best of creation, after all the prophets and messengers, and those who followed them, for the last of the revelation that was sent down, and these were the greatest people, and this knowledge was hidden from them, then those who come after them is for the all more reason that they learn these matters and be aware of them. Because if that was them, this particular matter was hidden from them. What about how you think that shaitan can allow one to fall into that, and they come later on, after their death, radiallahu anhum? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب, the 13th, I'm sorry. Read it, Ibrahim. Jade. To want to say basically Allahu Akbar when something amazing happens. خِلَافًا لِمَنْ كَرِهَهُ, in contrast to the one who detested. So, with something affair that's serious, its magnitude is on a high level, that the person would say what? Say Allahu Akbar. To ask a statement when something grave and something tremendous takes place. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned this in this regard, to so that it's legislated for one to do that. Tafadhal Ibrahim. The 14th. Jayyid. Sadd al-dhara'i'. What does he mean by that? What does he mean by that? Shutting off the doors. Meaning closing off anything would allow a person to fall into polytheism. Right, everyone? So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ would shut every door that would cause one to what? Fall into polytheism. Every bab. And you'll find, like we said in this text, this is an example of this. Where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said the dhara'i', or said the dhari'a, they call it. Meaning, الطرق الموصلة إلى الشيء وذرائع الشيء وسائله وطرقه. والذرائع نوعان. Now listen. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, not only did he prohibit polytheism, and that's it. Rather, anything that would lead a person to fall into it, he also shut the door off to it. So it wasn't just the what? The mere polytheism that was prohibited, but anything that would lead a person down its road. And this is the example of it. Because the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was what? He was stern with them, even though they didn't do it. To shut the door off completely. So it would not be open, so a person could be led down to falling into this matter. So even the great Imam Ibn Uthaymeen, that he mentioned in this regard, he says of dhara'i' is the plural of dhari'ah. Dhari'ah means wasila. It just means affair that will lead one down, or means or methods to one to fall into something. So the message of Allah, as they say, sadd dhara'i', closing the doors off, or closing the methods off, or the means off. For example, ذرائع إلى أمور مطلوبة فهذه لا تسد بل تفتح وتطلب. He says, as far as the means of that which is requested and beneficial, then those are not closed off. But as far as what are means and methods for one to fall into something evil, then those doors are shut. And they should be shut. You understand, everyone? For those doors are what? Are closed. So an example here, you'll find that al-anwat, that tree, in which it was considered a means, a wasila, or dhari'ah, for falling into major polytheism. If they would have hung their weapons upon it, and they would have sought blessing by it, Shaitan would have gradually allowed them to what? Eventually start worshiping it. Gradually. And he would start, and also Shaitan would initially, when it gradually would have started, would have gradually and now started making them fall into now asking it certain things. Asking for its needs, or what have you. So the message of Allah ﷺ, what everyone? Shut the door. Is it clear? What I'm saying, everyone? Shut the door. The 15th. We get a lot of Ibrahim today. Jayyid. From this is extracted النهي عن التشبه بأهل الجاهلية. The prohibition of resembling the people of Jahiliyyah. Where is that, everyone? Where is that taken from? Which wording in the hadith? Say it again. No. Read the hadith. Jay, the Prophet ﷺ said in the end of the hadith, what did he say? Jay, you will definitely follow the ways of those who before you. So that statement here is to show what? What are you, Ibrahim? Where that benefit is extracted is from where? Resembling the people of Jahiliyyah. Huh? Where's that taken? Where's that benefit taken from? It's taken from the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ has said, you will most definitely follow the ways of those before you, meaning the Jews and the Christians. What's the message of Allah ﷺ said this in order to encourage his followers? But no. He was just saying this in order to warn you not to what? To do it. Not to do it. You understand? But the message of Allah ﷺ was talking about an affair that will happen. And just as he said, it has happened. It does happen. As a matter of fact, it is happening now. The Muslims have resembled the non-Muslims in not only in the clothes, that's the least of the problems as far as clothes and look. What's worse is in worship. That's the most dangerous of all affairs. When would they have actually what? Followed them in that. So the message of Allah ﷺ, that he prohibited that. He prohibited it in a manner that is of warning, not to say to do it. Oh, you were going to follow the way, so that means we could do it. No, he was saying in order to what? To stay away from doing it, not to resemble them, or what befell them, what afflicted them will afflict you. The same humiliation that afflicted them will afflict you. Is it clear? I'm saying, everyone. So he's saying that, alayhi salatu wasalam, in order to what? To warn, as it says. So he says, قلتم كما قال بنو إسرائيل فأنكر عليهم بهذا التعريف. Not only that, also likewise, Jamal, you was right. Because in another part of the hadith, it does say, I swear by the one whose soul is in his hand, you said similar to what? What does it say? Just as Bani Israel said. So that's also bringing what? Resemblance of the people of before. So that's also derived, and that benefit is extracted from that wording in the hadith. So it's not just the last part, but it's also that other wording. He says, you said, just, I swear by the one whose soul is in his hand, just as Bani Israel said to Musa. So it's also like what we just mentioned here. So the 16th mas'ala. Say it again. 16th, what does it say? جيد. الغضب عند التعليم. Stay with me, Musa. We almost finished. About to pray now. One becoming angry when he has to teach. When he has to what? Teach. What is he talking about here? He said that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had became what? Upset when he was reprimanding them. We knew that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and a lot of times you'll find in narrations, he was very kind and gentle. And he was forbearing. Anything that was personal with him, he overlooked it. It was personal. Anything that the Messenger of Allah, something that was happened to him personally, he overlooked it. The thing when he became angry for was when what? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights were violated. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights were violated in the aspect of worship and unifying him in his worship, then is when the Messenger of Allah became highly upset. But as far as him personally, the Messenger of Allah overlooked and forgave the people. But as far as when it became for Allah, then that's when he became what? Upset. And this is the example of it here. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Right, everyone? So this is to show in certain circumstances, as it says, where he said, Allahu Akbar innaha sunan. He said, لِأَنَّ قُوتَهَا الْكَلَامُ تُفِيدُ الْغَضَبِ. He said, when the Messenger of Allah said, verily this is the ways. This necessitates anger. So, this is another narration as walillahi alhamd to show that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ wasn't always, what everyone? Gentle and kind all the time. There were certain instances where he was what? Stern. And he was what? He was assertive. And he was stern, ﷺ. So like we said, the religion of Islam is a what? Deen al-wasat. Knowing when to be gentle and kind and courteous, and when to be what? And when to be stern. And when to be assertive. And that we try to what? Put everything in its proper place. So it's not like what the Sufiya say, and it's not like those weak Muslims that apologize and saying, oh, everything is about gentleness and kindness. Just akhi, just everything is gentle and kind. Everything. You have to be gentle and kind. Yes, we we know that the origin of what we want to do in order to bring the people to the da'wah is to be kind and gentle, no doubt. But there are certain instances where it necessitates what? Assertiveness. When one being assertive. And one knowing how to what? Put his foot down, but in a manner that is acceptable without using obscene or offensive language. Where one can know how to what? Discipline and be assertive without being offensive. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ used to do during his life. He knew how to do it in a manner that was what? Assertive, but you will never find in any narration where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was what? Obscene. That he used obscene speech, or he used something that necessitated some type of what? Some type of speech that's unacceptable, or we could say some obscene, crazy behavior. Rather, he, alayhi salatu wasalam, he became angry, but you'll find it is in the boundaries of Allah Ta'ala. When he became angry, it was for Allah, in a manner of where the rights of Allah was violated. You understand, everyone? Jee. So we'll stop here, inshallah. Put a mark on 17. For me, Ibrahim. 17. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. No, just put an X on the side of it to mark where we stop. Anything else? Any questions about the lesson, anyone?